and my name's Dwight Labar, and we represent an organization called Sam Ministries, which stands for Strategic Action Mission, based out of Canada. And we have started a local organization, a local nonprofit Christian charity in Mozambique called Associação Amor Mozambique, which is simply Love Mozambique. And we've been in country since 1993. The organization was registered finally in 2003. Prior to that, we served a variety of nonprofit organizations and missions. And yeah, finally we're able to get registered in 2003. And so we've been operating since then. We're an organization focused on both missions development and training. We are a Christian mission, so we're focused on working with both church leaders and leadership in general in the communities to help them understand what their purpose is in terms of making life better for their people, and hopefully leading their people toward the kind of future that we believe God wants for them. And that is a future that helps their people realize their potential and dignity, and obviously lifts them out of poverty, both spiritual poverty as well as physical poverty. So that's the focus of our mission. Our simple mission statement is loving God and loving people so they have a chance to love God and love people. We want to create empowered people rather than dependent people. So everything we do, both in the training as well as in our development work, whether it's distribution of seed, even as it relates to now the cyclone response, our goal is to really try to do what we can to help the people learn and help the people develop a better future for tomorrow so they are not dependent neither on us or on anyone else. So that's the focus. Our mission, we believe, is both if you'd call it metaphysical as well as physical. In other words, it's spiritually related because we believe that when people learn to understand that there's a God who loves them unconditionally and completely, they can learn to do that as well. They can start to love other people unconditionally. So we say uncompromising love for God is the start, and that can result in unconditional love for other people if they're understanding their faith correctly. So that's sort of what we're doing. We have a variety of different programs that we are engaged in, and these developed out of the needs that the people presented after we arrived. Lynn's a nurse, and right after we arrived, you can tell what we experienced.
Oh, wow. A lot of sick people came to us. We were living in tents still, so I was tending to people just in our little camp kitchen and decided that if I could teach them more how to treat and prevent, that it would help them a lot. And so I started a women's health class, and that became a primary school and 2 health posts that still run today. So once you start reaching out and touching people's needs, you touch one need and you touch them all. So that was the health component and education.
And that also developed into a literacy program as well. So empowering the women with the ability, you may have seen today, the crafts that they make that we sell that helps to fund our literacy program. We then, for the school, we started a sponsorship program so that the kids in our school, so we have about 340 in our school. We have probably close to 400 now overall in our program, so they can continue their studies all the way up to university. We have about 1,300 odd leaders in 65 communities enrolled in our leadership training program. And we have then an orphan program, so we build homes for elderly widows in the communities where they are so that they can better care for the orphans they're left with.
And yeah, you even built your own homes. Yeah, you built everything yourselves.
Oh yes,
yeah, and even
base.
and
exactly.
Even the runway you actually you made yourselves.
Yes, the base that we have here is 1,000 hectares.
Yes,
and we developed, like you say, housing accommodation for all the mission staff.
Yeah.
and then we built the runway as well, and a hangar, so that enables us to reach further.
Yeah. And what do you think the victims of Cyclone Idai really need at the moment? They, like you said, they actually have to start learning how to look after themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the reality is when people have lost everything immediately, like they have, there is obviously the food need. There are a lot. Mozambique has over, I think the statistic is better than 50% malnourished at any time of the year in a normal year. So there hasn't been an abundance of food everywhere all the time anyway. And now with the cyclone, clearly there's a desperate need for food to get that into the areas that have been devastated. However, that needs to be balanced immediately by empowering them with things like tools and seeds, as well as shelter. And shelter being a covering for them, but also clothing and blankets, things like that. But then, like I say, tools and seed, and so that's been one of our major focuses, especially in some areas here in Mozambique. Not all, because there's many areas that can't, but there are some areas that can grow 2 and 3 crops a year, so long as there's adequate moisture.
And you're looking after a large part of, it's not just this area. I hear you actually, because that's why you got the plane, you go to certain other areas too. Okay, so how far do you actually stretch out in this area?
We're working into the 4 central provinces of Mozambique.
Okay.
Okay, that's basically the limits of our influence at this point in time.
Yeah.
And so, and obviously not everywhere in all of, there's so many different areas.
Just north of the Zambezi River.
Yeah, a lot is focused on some of the more needy areas. We try to focus on more of the remote areas, although we do have a lot of leadership training in some of the cities.
Yes, yeah.
But we try to focus on the areas where it's important to empower leaders to be able to sort of not just repeat what's happened in the past. One of the key things in Africa, I'd say as a whole, because of the traditional culture, is people very much do what their ancestors did. And in fact, if they don't do what their ancestors do, it's almost like a curse. It can be something that the witch doctors will tell them is something they shouldn't be doing. So if we can teach them that taking initiative and maybe doing things different is a possibility. In other words, teaching them the contrary, that decision, your ability to decide your future, is a God-given right, and no one can take that away from you. Fear is the only thing that can steal that from you. And so when they learn that, it empowers them to start taking responsibility, personal responsibility, and making a difference. And it's really exciting to watch that happen.